being just a little past 6 p.m., I'll go ahead and call the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors to order for December 14, 2021. The county clerk has confirmed the roll, and we do have a quorum this evening. So the first items on the agenda are the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Supervisor Powers. If you could please all join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the invocation by Supervisor Powers. If we could please open up the mic for Supervisor Powers.
Creator of all things, lover of all humankind, we ask your blessing on our gathering this evening. Lead us in all our deliberations for the good of the people of Winnebago County. We pray for the healing of John, our county executive. Guide the hands of the healthcare workers for his continued well-being and for a positive outcome. Guard and protect all people who are traveling and all people who are alone during these holiday seasons. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Next item on the agenda is a motion to adopt this evening's agenda. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Albrecht.
I move to adopt this evening's amended agenda.
There's a motion and a second to adopt this evening's agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, and that's the time during each meeting in which we give an opportunity for anyone from the public to speak on any item that is on our agenda this evening or any item under county jurisdiction. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak this evening? We'll first see if there's anyone from the public in person this evening, and then we'll see if anyone on Zoom. Is there anyone from the public in person this evening who wishes to speak this evening? Okay, very good. We will absolutely call on you a little bit later on the agenda with your presentation. Absolutely. Not a problem at all. Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else from the public in person who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to anyone from the public on Zoom this evening who wishes to speak. If so, go ahead and raise your Zoom hand and we'll call on you in succession. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on Zoom this evening? And we're just going to check and scroll the screens to see if we see anybody. I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone from the public on Zoom who wishes to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close that portion of the agenda. We'll move on to the next item, which is correspondence. For that, I'll call on Clerk Ertmer.
There we go. Thank you. We have a few zoning petitions tonight. The first one is from Mike Scharf in the town of Nakaimai, requesting a zoning change from A2 to R1. And this is referred to the Planning and Zoning Committee. Another petition for zoning amendment from Kimberly Quant in the town of Amro, requesting a zoning change from A2 to R2, also referred to Planning and Zoning. And a petition for zoning amendment from Jennifer Zingsheim in the town of Oshkosh, requesting a zoning change from R1, R2 to R1. That's referred to Planning and Zoning. You have one resolution from Sawyer County, Sawyer County Board of Supervisors, affirmation to denounce healthcare choice discrimination against citizens by Sawyer County government businesses and employers. That'll be referred to the Legislative Committee. That's all.
Thank you, Clerk Ertmer. Next, we'll move to the next item, which is reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Any reports from any committees, commissions, and boards? I see one. I'll call on Supervisor Fari. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to announce that the Land Conservation Committee of this county and the Land Conservation Water Department of this county has begun a process through our monthly meetings to identify conservation projects that would be eligible for the COVID money. As you might recall, the attorney that spoke at, I believe, our last meeting used the term clean water. So we're going to capitalize on that and try to identify large projects that would benefit this county providing clean water. So that'll be an ongoing process. I believe our intention is to identify those projects with estimated costs and bring them perhaps before the county board as a resolution to start utilizing those funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Fowrie. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Norton. Please go ahead, Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. First off, yesterday at our ADRC meeting, we met our impending newest member who will be appointed and approved tonight, I believe, Frederick Rudy. He's an advocate for the disabled. He'll be a great addition because we plan on doing some of those things in the next coming months. Secondly, the housing study that Beth Roberts and Paul Janty, our chairman, have been working on for the elderly, probably will be done probably in May of this year. It takes a few time. We just got the data from the city of Oshkosh. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, I know it's only December, but I was wondering, since the April, as you know, is National County Government Month, I was wondering if maybe you and the county executive could come up with a plan to maybe how we could highlight and showcase what the county government does. I mean, I can present a resolution at March making it National County Government Month, but it would be nice if we had a series of activities maybe planned. It doesn't have to be every department. It doesn't have to be every day or one single day, but since it's December, I think it's about time that we start planning for it. So that's what I would like to see. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Norton. I see one other call. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Binder. Please go ahead, Supervisor Binder.
I'd just like to say that we got an email from the Parks Director that he did secure a $400,000 grant for rebuilding the boat landings. We'll be bringing that project through in a capital improvement project probably in January or February of 2022. But he did secure a $400,000 grant, so that will be helpful in completing their projects.
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. Any other reports from any committees, commissions, and boards? Any county board supervisor on Zoom with any reports from any committees, commissions, and boards? If so, go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. We'll move on to the next item, which is approval of proceedings from November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd budget meetings, as well as the November 16, 2021 county board meeting. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second to approve both minutes from November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, as well as November 16th. Any discussion or changes from anyone? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, that's county executives' reports and county executives' appointments. Executive Damel could not be here this evening. Director Collard is going to provide the report, and then afterward, what will happen is I'll then introduce the different county board appointments. But Executive Damel did provide a report that he asked Director Collard to provide this evening. So please, go right ahead, Director Collard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Executive Damel did give me his report. It is written in the first person, so this is coming straight from him through me. First, I apologize for my absence. Last week, I was treated for a serious infection with IV antibiotics. I am on the mend and will be out again in January for a surgery. I am thankful for my strong department head team for assisting in my absence. Thank you to Mike Collard for reading this report. The first item, thank you, Vicki. I am excited for Vicki Fitzgerald as she departs the county. Vicki has been valuable during the transition between county executives. She's not going far and will be leading a community as an administrator, which is a great opportunity. I wish Vicki the best of luck and Look forward to continue working with her as community leaders. Holiday cheer across the county. You may have heard staff members are spreading holiday cheer by decorating doors and dressing festive in December. We have over 35 doors in a contest for the most joyous presentation on a door. In addition, my office and department heads are preparing to give holiday cards to every county employee to recognize all their contributions this year. Strategic plan update. Last month you had a presentation from Andy Phillips and Jake Curtis, legal counsel for the Wisconsin Counties Association. I am in the process of working with other counties to get their requests for proposals and framework for starting a strategic plan. I will be pulling together a technical advisory team of county staff who have strategic planning experience and bringing a presentation and agenda item in the coming months. We will look to have an official planning commission for this first strategic plan. I will learn from other counties and work with Mary Ann and other technical advisors on what this could look like in Winnebago County. Once we have our strategic priorities, we can then begin to allocate ARPA dollars. Planning for 2022. I ran for county executive on 4 bullet points: communication, collaboration, growth, and reform. Next week, appointed department heads and I will look to 2022 and put together some objectives for the year. In January, I will present my objectives for 2022 in each of these categories to the board. I look forward to working with you. ARPA grants. The county has applied for several state ARPA grants for homelessness, the Parkview ancillary building, and for the Grunman boat launch. The county should hear soon about these grants. Based on Supervisor Binder's report, we may have heard about the last one favorably, so that's good news. Opioid litigation and deaths. As you may have heard, Winnebago County is experiencing an uptick in opioid deaths caused by fentanyl. The coroner had a need to secure storage of those deceased. Through my staff and emergency management, we found a temporary trailer from Clark County for the cost of sanitizing the unit. This saved the county over $60,000 and is a story of the collaboration occurring in the county. The coroner and emergency management department will be working on a FEMA grant to secure funding for a temporary option. Facilities department and the coroner will be working on a permanent solution. Public health and human services are working on resources for those who are addicted. That's the conclusion of his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Collard. So I'll go ahead and introduce then the county executive's appointments one by one, after which would entertain a motion and a second to approve. So the first one is the Aging and Disability Resource Committee, ADRC Committee, Frederick Rudy as the appointment from Oshkosh. I'd entertain a motion to approve. There's a motion and a second to approve the Aging and Disability Resource Committee appointment. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. And just as a reminder for all the supervisors on Zoom, when we're doing the nays, if you are a nay vote and you don't feel like you can be heard, then at the time we vote for the nay, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand and we will confirm that you're a nay vote. Moving on to the next appointment, and that is to the Human Services Board. Recommended appointments of Supervisor Larry Lautenschlager, Karen Powers, and Jerry Finch. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve all 3 appointments to the Human Services Board. Please.
My question is, if they're being appointed as supervisors, what about if they're not running? Not even on the ballot? We already know that.
I'll ask the Corporation Counsel, but this appointment would then only go to the end of their term, and there would have to be a reappointment to that board at that time. But please go ahead and clarify, Corporation
It
Counsel.
would be an interim appointment. It would go, as you say, until April, and then there would be a reappointment.
Would you repeat that? We're not hearing.
Sure. What Chairman Ramos said is accurate. It would essentially be an interim appointment until the end of the term, and then when the new supervisor was elected, and the new chair was elected, then there would be a decision as to who would replace that person.
Thank you, Corporation Counsel. Did that answer your question, Vice Chair Egan? Yes. Very good. Any other questions or discussion? There was a motion and a second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. We'll move on down to the third appointment. That's also the Human Services Board, Chris Kneep from Oshkosh. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second to approve the appointment to the Human Services Board. We'll open it up for any discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the fourth item, that's the Veteran Service Commission, and recommended appointment of Supervisor Tom Snyder, Roy Rogers from Menasha, and Tim Patterson from Oshkosh. I'll entertain a motion. There's a motion and a second to approve all three appointments to the Veteran Service Commission. We'll open it up. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Next appointment is to the Winifox Library System Board of Trustees, and that's for Noah Cipher from Amaro. Is there a motion? There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to approve the appointment to the Winifox Library System Board of Trustees. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next appointment. It's actually several appointments, all to the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Recommended appointments of Supervisor Doug Zelmer, Doug Gearin, the Public Health Director, Kaylin Van Stappen from Clayton, Allison Vaccaro from Kimberly Clark Corporation, and Andy Radig from the Oshkosh Community Media Services. I'll entertain a motion to approve all of those appointments to the Local Emergency Planning Committee.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to approve the appointments to the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. We have two more appointments. The next one is also for the Local Emergency Planning Committee. That's Del Volper from Generac Power Systems. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to approve the Local Emergency Planning Committee appointment. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. We have our final appointment. That's for the Diversity Affairs Commission, Jared Longson, Oshkosh, and Sorab Tyrone Akavine from Oshkosh. There's a motion. Was there a second? There's a motion and a second to approve the appointments to the Diversity Affairs Commission. I'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. And that concludes County Executive's appointments, so we'll move down to County Board Chairman's report and County Board Chairman's appointments. So first of all, Supervisor Joas asked to be excused this evening. Next, I wanted to make you all aware of the tentative plans of how we'd be looking at the January meetings. January 4th would be our special orders. Given that there would be no voting items on that, I feel we can do that one all by Zoom like we've done in the past. So I want to make you all aware of that. So that would be our intent for that one. For the special orders one in January, which would be January 18, we will do a combined one. So there'll be an in-person one as well as the Zoom option for individuals as well. The regular meeting, correct, on the 14th. Now, that will either be here or there's the potential we're going to explore that, doing that hybrid meeting at the courthouse. So that's yet to be determined to determine if we can effectively do it. If we can effectively do it, we will do it at the courthouse, but we're going to finalize some of those logistics first. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Then in the county executive report, he already commented about ARPA. He and I had a meeting between our November meeting and now, so we did discuss ARPA. And so I agree with the plan of having kind of some internal work being done and then some plans for strategic planning. There may be some point when we meet an official ARPA committee or commission too. Certainly any supervisor, if they want to put something together, I have seen some, we can consider it at any time. But I agree with the plan of internally working to develop some ideas and the department heads also working and building that strategic plan as at least part of it. So we did have discussions about that from the last meeting and today. And then I also wanted to give everyone an update on the vacancy in District 16. Remember, that's with Supervisor Belante. We've had a posting out there more than once. We didn't have any candidates. However, I did receive an individual's name late last week. So I will update you if anything transpires as a result of that. But other than that, that's the only contact I've received at this point regarding District 16. And then certainly wanted to mention, as the county executive mentioned, our finance director will be leaving us soon. And so I just wanted to personally say, Director Fitzgerald, it's truly been wonderful to work with you. You've been a steady hand with our finance department. You've been so easy to work with. You're very approachable. And you seem to have a knack for making complicated things easy to understand. And just in general, I've appreciated your counsel and behind the scenes always being available for questions that I may have over the time. So just best of wishes in the new position. She's not going far. She's going to be in the family, so to speak, still, because she'll become the administrator for the city of Amarillo. So certainly wish you well and truly thank you for all you've done for the county. As well as. And then, while there'll be more time at some point in the future to say, I did let individuals know over the past couple of days that I won't be seeking re-election in the spring. It's not because of anything bad. It's simply because I feel the time is right. I've been on the board for 16 years. My youngest son is graduating from high school. My oldest is actually getting married over the next year. Maybe moving away from for a little while, coming back, not far in Madison. And there are some things that I may consider doing down the road as well. So it's for no other reason than that the timing feels right, even though it's certainly bittersweet already. I've joked with individuals over the past couple days that I'm kind of in mourning already, because it truly, I've truly enjoyed, and frankly, I got 4 more months to enjoy being a part of the county community and the family and working with the public, all of you and staff, over almost 16 years, and the honor of being your chairman over the past nearly 4 years. So. It was not an easy decision. I'm going to miss it terribly, but I got 4 more months to enjoy it nonetheless. And so there'll be more that I can say about that at some point down the road. But for those of you who don't know, that is the case. So it's opportunities for my family and down the road, potentially some things for myself. As I've told people, not even necessarily knowing what all those would be even. But just open. So I'll have more to say down the road, but I just want to make sure for all of you to know that. Truly thankful. Once again, you all might have heard me slip at the last meeting because I was already contemplating it. I'll leave with that actually today. Because I actually made one comment, and you might not have heard it on, but I said it kind of quietly. I said it's been one of the honors of my life. That was me already talking a month prior. Even though I hadn't made the final decision, it was reconciling that maybe it was the right time for it. So anyways, enough said with that. Just wanted to make sure all folks were aware of that. And then, of course, it's a holiday season, so just want to wish everyone a happy holidays. wonderful Christmas. Be safe out there with your family and your loved ones and friends, but I certainly truly hope everyone takes the time and has the opportunity to be with family and friends and let them know how much they mean to you at this time of year. And with that, that will conclude my report. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover this evening. With that, that'll conclude it. I have 2 appointments, both to the Information Systems Committee. First one, and we'll do them together. First one is Supervisor Jim Weiss, and the second one is for Supervisor John Hintz, both to the Information Systems Committee. I'd ask for a motion to approve both appointments. There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to approve both appointments to the Information Systems Committee. Any discussion? We'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving then to the next item, and that is our presentation for this evening. It's from Reach Counseling Agency in regards to some of their updates, and for that we have Noelle Fenwick here, the Development and Marketing Manager for Reach Counseling. So please, Ms. Fenwick, you have the floor. And I believe she has some slides that we're going to work to put up here.
All right. Well,
Please, you have the floor. Go ahead.
I will get started. Thank you, everyone, for having us here tonight. We really appreciate making time for us so we can give some updates on our agency. My name is Noelle Fenwick. I am the Development and Marketing Manager at Reach Counseling Services. And joining me tonight is Kim Havlicka, our Clinic Manager and Lead Therapist, as well as Anna Bunker, our Prevention Education Manager and Youth and Teen Advocate. Kristen Trimberger, our Executive Director and CEO, so much wanted to be here tonight. However, she is quarantining with her 2 little girls, but she wishes everyone the best. And again, thank you for allowing us to present today. So a little bit about Reach Counseling. If this may be a new agency to you, or you may just see us as a counseling center, we are a whole lot more than that. We are Winnebago County's sole sexual assault service provider. And our mission is to provide for children and adults, and we offer culturally responsive outreach, prevention education, victim advocacy, trauma counseling, and sex offender treatment. And as an anti-violence agency, really our mission is to strive to heal lives and transform communities. So a little bit about why we do this and why this mission is so important to us. Every 73 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. And every 9 minutes, Child Protective Services substantiates or finds evidence for a claim of child abuse. And these survivors, it's more than just repairing, physical damage like bruises and wounds like that. It's really deep emotional wounds as well that comes with this abuse. So we notice that survivors of sexual violence often experience PTSD symptoms, including nightmares, flashbacks, and hypervigilance, among others. And then going into our 4 distinct program areas, starting off with our Victim Advocacy Program. This is led by our Advocacy Program Director, Sierra Hill, who is on maternity leave. So I will cover her portion of the presentation. Just 3 quick things to highlight about our advocacy program. First and foremost, we really want to make sure that it's accessible. So all of our advocacy services are provided free of charge, and they're offered 24/7. So we recruit a team of volunteers to help cover our 24/7 helpline. So no matter day, time, holiday or not, that there's someone to pick up the phone and offer support. That's also involves 24/7 response to both Aurora Medical Center Oshkosh and Theta Care Appleton to any survivor who presents in the ER. Next, we really want to hone in on having culturally sensitive, tailored services. Something that's really unique about Reach Counseling is we really try to find advocates in our community that are going to connect with the survivors that they serve. So we have our Latina outreach advocate who is a part of the community and does really great work translating documents for her clients and helping them with their unique needs. We recently hired a sexual assault victim advocate who also comes from the Hmong community and has experience working with people with disabilities, so she can really bridge those gaps in services as well. And those are just a couple examples. We also have our Native American victim advocate, our anti-trafficking advocate. And again, we really want to specialize our advocates so that we can reach all the communities that need our services. Finally, our advocacy program is really about wraparound support, meeting survivors where they're at and helping them get where they need to go. So from the first time that they walk into a police station or walk into an ER, we're there to provide support, information, and what next steps look like for them, whether that's walking them through the criminal justice process, helping them file a restraining order, going with them to court dates, or maybe it's helping them get to the food pantry and helping them, afford rent so that they can focus on their healing. So whatever they need, we either help out with it, and then whatever we can't do, we refer to make sure that our clients are set on their healing journey.
Hi, I'm Kim, and as Noelle said, I'm the clinic manager. Thank you. I'm short, apparently. I want to tell you a little bit about our counseling program. We've got a couple of bullet points here that we really try to, we really believe we're providing expert care. Every single person on our counseling team has been with REACH for at least 2 years and more. I've actually been with REACH for about 14 years. We work really hard to make sure our therapists get the training they need to provide good care to people who have experienced trauma. We want to be accessible for all incomes, and this is something that we've really we do take insurance, third-party payments for services. However, we don't want insurance or finances to be a barrier for any sexual assault survivor or trauma survivor in our area. We don't want that to be a barrier for anybody to be getting services. So therefore, we've really worked to cultivate and maintain some funding sources that allow us to offer either sliding fee or in some cases free counseling to people who really need it. We've really seen that it's made a difference. Anecdotally, just this past year, we've heard from several clients who had a change in their financial circumstances. We were able to use some funding to help them out, and these were people who they were in a spot where they needed their services, but had admitted they were thinking of either reducing frequency or having to discontinue counseling because they wouldn't be able to afford it. So it's really been an important thing to focus on this past year. And we are very effective. We measure our outcomes. We really put a lot of work into measuring outcomes for our clients because we want to make sure we are providing good quality care to people. One of the ways we do this is clients get a survey that asks them to rate certain symptoms and problems at the beginning of each session, so we have a good handle on that. And that information gets put into a larger database, and that shows us that at least 70% of our clients consistently are experiencing a reduction in their symptoms as a result of their counseling. We have some other surveys on which clients have responded to us that say 95% of clients are reporting that they find counseling helpful to them in addressing their problems. We're also seeing, we're working on gathering data on suicidal ideation, and we are seeing that people involved in ongoing counseling are experiencing a pretty notable reduction in frequency of suicidal ideation and thoughts. So we're really excited about that. You've probably been hearing about the increasing need for services. This is one of those things I think almost all mental health agencies are running into this right now. We have the demand for services is larger than at any time in the 14 years I've been with REACH. We're doing our best to meet the needs, but it's really been a challenge. But as a result, we're very excited for 2022. We are currently in the process of recruiting for 2 additional therapist positions. One just to do just, regular therapy, but the other position that we're really recruiting for and very excited about is that we really want to hire a bilingual therapist. To help serve our Latino community, because there's a definite need there. And we are also looking at how do we kind of like adjust our current building to accommodate the expansion of our staff. And just as we have Winnebago County clients alone so far this year, we've provided over 1,500 counseling sessions to 110 Winnebago area clients.
I'm always afraid to speak into a microphone. I never know if I'm going to come off too loud or not. Well, hello, my name is Anna, and I'm the Prevention Education Manager and then a Youth and Teen Advocate. So about a year ago, we added on the Youth and Teen Advocacy portion onto the Prevention Educators. And the reason why we did this is so we can also provide the wraparound services for individuals who have survived abuse. The reason why we added this on is because the educators are the ones who go into the schools. So we have an education program regarding sex ed from pre-K all the way until 12th grade. So we are able to be there once the students disclosed if they have experienced abuse, and then we can also guide them to the services that we have at Reach. And we thought this was extremely important, so we can be with them from start to end, and we don't lose them within the translation of them coming forward and saying that they have been abused and then transitioning them into our services. So we are in all of the schools in Winnebago County. We are in over 71 schools. So this includes public schools and private schools. In addition to that, we are also involved in various organizations and giving them sexual education programs also. And then one of the really cool things is that I'm newer to this position. Before Lizzie Van Abel, she was the Prevention Education Director and she retired. And this is something that is a little bit newer to me. And this year, we have been able to serve 2,800 students just since October within the schools. So that means from spring and fall this school year, so throughout the entire year of 2021, we have been able to serve over 5,000 students. So that is something that is going to continue to grow once we go into the 2022 school year. So as we have been going into the schools, we have also been able to adjust our curriculum a little bit to make sure that it meets the sex education standards in nationwide and also in the United States. So this is something that has been also a growing program. We are currently in the process of hiring on another prevention educator, and we do have 2 interns part of this program who really do keep us afloat.
Jamie Roovers is our sex offender treatment program manager. However, she's home with young children, so I'm covering for her since I'm fairly familiar with her program, and it is part of our clinical programs. So our sex offender treatment program, has served over 40 clients so far this year. 22 of those people, of those clients served in the program are from the Oshkosh area. So we are the only sexual assault service provider with an actual sex offender program in the Valley. We have, in addition to taking referrals from the community, and we actually do get quite a few of those from community resources, social workers, case managers, things like that. We also have some contracts in good standing that are ongoing. One is with federal probation and parole, and the other one is to serve 980 SR, the supervised released offenders. So we do a lot of work, and we also serve juvenile offenders. We work with minors who have been charged with sex offenses, and we really work to individualize treatment to the unique needs of juveniles, of the younger offenders. And our manager has been keeping track of outcomes in recidivism. She tracked regarding juveniles, and she's telling me that we have had a 0% recidivism rate for juveniles that we have served since 2018, which is incredibly impressive in my opinion. And again, further, we are the services that we are providing, the treatment we provide really does reduce recidivism. Our studies are showing only about a 7% reoffense rate over 15 years after having completed a sex offender treatment program at REACH. For comparison, the averages are, the average recidivism rates for offenders is 12.3%. So at 7%, that's pretty significant. And I think that is all she has me covering. Thank you.
Okay. And then I just wanted to cover a little bit of like the higher level stuff that's been going on at REACH Counseling. We've had some really new and exciting things over the past year or so. So for starters, we've been working really hard to recruit a talented and driven and motivated board. So our new members bring expertise in areas of finance, strategic planning, marketing, HR, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Second, we have been embarking for, as you guys know from all the meetings, in quite a lengthy strategic planning process. We are working to finalize it actually this week, and then those initiatives will be started January 2022. So we're really excited about that as well. And big thanks to Kathy Seifert at Catapult LLC and Brianna Propson at Oshkosh Corporation, who made that possible and really guided us through that process. Finally, our financial sustainability has greatly improved since our addition of our new executive director, Kristen Terberger. We've made a lot of positive changes to the daily operations to really boost our cash flow. We were actually able to pay off a $100,000 line of credit and are now operating in a positive cash flow. So we are very proud of that as well. And then just a little bit about our specific impact in Winnebago County. I know Kim and Anna kind of touched on this already, but I just want to make sure it was covered. So between both therapy and our advocacy program, we've served 200 Winnebago County residents, 60 of which were children. And like Anna said, we have given presentations to over 5,000 children, specifically 5,476 children have received our presentations in the schools. We also collaborate with a long list, as you can see on the slide, which I will not name every single one, of other organizations across the county. We really want to make sure we're good stewards of the resources available to us and interacting well with other agencies so that they know us, we know them, and we can all serve our clients better. And so I just want to say thank you for Winnebago County's continued support of REACH Counseling Services. We are really appreciative, especially in a time when the need for our services is greater than we've ever seen before. So thank you. And if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Very good. Thank you. We're going to open it up for questions. I do see a couple. So first, I'll call on Supervisor Powers, followed by Supervisor Nussbaum. Please go ahead, Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Noel, I was wondering, when you talk about 100% non-recidivism in youth sexual assaults, are we looking at youth in sort of target or random sexual assaults, or are we looking at sort of Romeo and Juliet situations?
I would say, and I can't probably speak directly to, I think the juvenile offenders that come to us have been charged with a variety crimes in a variety of situations. These situations, I think most of them are not the Romeo Juliet sort of situation at this point. I think that's a different category. I think we're seeing offenses. If I'm remembering correctly, ranging from some inappropriate sexting sort of behaviors to familial, like sibling on sibling, to perhaps inappropriate behaviors in the schools, things like that we're seeing. But and we really want to be, I think with the juvenile offenders, we really want to be proactive and preventative also, because we want to address these issues now so that they don't, when they become adults, they don't end up in our adult offender systems. And so far, that has held true, that any of the juveniles that we've served in the past several years have not yet turned up in the adult systems. So I think that's a win.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Next speaker, Supervisor Nussbaum, followed by Supervisor Binder. Please go ahead, Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you leaving right after this presentation, or are you sticking around a little bit?
I could stick around if there are further questions afterwards. I could definitely do that. And I do have business cards available as well, so if anyone wants one.
I do have one personal question, but I'll ask you later. But I do you have any pastors on your staff?
We do not, but we do coordinate with like other services like Father Cars or that kind of thing. So if there's something that people want to get connected to, we are happy to provide that.
So I think that might be of a benefit if you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Nussbaum. Next speaker, Supervisor Binder. Please go ahead, Supervisor Binder.
I just want to thank you for the service that you provide to our community. I had the opportunity a couple of years to go to tour your facility and see your people at work, and it's a great service you provide to our community, and I can't say thank you enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. Next speaker is Supervisor Defferting. Please go ahead, Supervisor Defferting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't really have any questions. I do also just want to thank you for all the wonderful work that you do for the county. And this is just basically a comment to the rest of the board, is that with Reach Counseling is the only sexual assault resource center in Winnebago County. Outagamie County, they have the crisis center up there. But for us in Winnebago County, we have Reach Counseling. That's the place to go. And it's very important to know the roles that they play. It's not just simply with sexual assault, it's also with victim advocacy too. Because we have to realize that abuse can continue even if somebody leaves the relationship. And the abuse can continue within the legal system. And abusers will often use the legal system against them well after the fact. And that's where Reach Counseling comes into play, to make sure that they're not continuing to be abused through the legal system. And this is one of the reasons why they provide such a vital resource to Winnebago County. And so I just want to commend Reach Counseling for the wonderful work that they've been doing. They are simply one of the best out there. And so thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Defferting. I see no other call-ins, so just want to say thank you to all three of you for being here tonight, and certainly thank you for all you do for the community. Thank you. Moving on to the next items, which are zoning reports and ordinances. We have two this evening. The first is report number 001, Peter Kellner et al., Town of Poygan. For that, I'll call on Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of report number 001.
There's a motion and a second to approve report number 001. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, that's amendatory ordinance number 12-00121, rezoning from B2 community business to R2 suburban low-density residential for tax parcel number 020-0130-01. I'll once again call on Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of mandatory ordinance number 12-00121.
There's a motion and a second to approve amendatory ordinance number 12-001/21. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, that's amendatory ordinance number 12-0221. Town of Winchester, on behalf of Darrell Buddy, rezoning from R1 rural residential to R3 two-family residential for tax parcel number 028-0398-04 and 028-0398-05. I once again call on Vice Chair Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for a mandatory ordinance number 12-0221.
There's a motion and a second to approve a mandatory ordinance number 12-0221. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. And that concludes our zoning reports and ordinances. So we'll move on to the next items, which are resolutions and ordinances. The first one is resolution number 237-112021 in support of legislative changes to Wisconsin Statute Chapter 980, supervised release. For that, I'll call on Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make the motion for resolution number 237-112-2021. But before a vote's taken, can we have corporate counsel explain a little bit about this? Because this is the one that we brought back in from last month. So just update you on what Mary found out.
Absolutely. Please go ahead, Corporation Counsel, Mary Ann Miller.
Thank you. As you all may recall, at the last meeting, there were questions regarding what Brown County was intending regarding this resolution, and specifically, there was a concern regarding a 1,500-foot distance parameter. I spoke with Corp Counsel for Brown County, and he clarified that the real issue basically involved the definition of a youth center and whether under the 980 statutory scheme it included a private residence. There was nothing regarding the 1,500-foot parameter or buffer zone. So given the clarification, again, to just refresh your recollection, there was a suggestion that lines 14 through 18 of the resolution be deleted. Given the fact that the 1,500-foot buffer zone was not an issue, I would suggest that those lines remain intact, and then that's basically the answer that I got from Brown County.
Thank you for that information, Corporation Counsel. There was a motion and a second. We'll open it up for any discussion or further questions. Seeing none. Oh, I see one. Please go ahead on Zoom, Supervisor Wingren. Please go ahead, Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because of what Mary Ann just said, and because of the committee vote being 9 but 7 absent, it doesn't seem clear here that this does the job for Winnebago County. It might be very nice for somebody else, but I don't think we should be monkeying around with things that don't have direct effect for or against the county's interest. So I would like to see this tabled indefinitely. I so move.
There's a motion to table indefinitely. Is there a second? Second. There's a motion and a second to postpone indefinitely. So that takes precedent at this time. It is debatable. So we will open it up for discussion on postponing it indefinitely. Please go ahead, Vice Chair Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I realize where supervisors are coming from. This does not probably do anything for Winnebago County, but if we're not going to take these recommendations and go along with our neighbor counties, then why even put them in not only to the legislative, but why are we talk about anything on the board? Maybe we should just throw them all out, but then tell these counties don't even send them to us. And just remember, if we ever want to send one back, it's going to be the same way. So that's my feelings on it. No, it's not probably going to do anything for Winnebago County, but we had a neighbor county that asked us to support it.
I ask this question with deep respect. When is the last time we said anything?
Supervisor Wingren, Vice Chair Egan has the floor for the moment.
Probably clear back, maybe, when you were chairman. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But let's not have a debate. So is Vice Chair Egan, and then it'll be Supervisor Powers after that. So I just want to make sure that we're following in line. Please go ahead, Vice Chair Egan.
That's all that I had is I wanted to make that statement that we do have these other ones, and there was another one that was just brought in tonight from the clerk that's going to be sent to the legislative committee from another one of our counties. So if that's the case and that's the way this board feels, though, if we're not going to support any of this, except the ones that have to do Winnebago County, then we shouldn't even look at them at all anymore, not just here, but not even discuss them anymore at any of the committee meetings on any of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Egan. So next I'm going to recognize Supervisor Powers, and then after that I'll recognize Supervisor Wingren. So please go ahead, Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree with Supervisor Egan that we need to be working in concert with each other across county lines. And the 980 sex offenders are the most violent sex offenders and prey on children and other vulnerable population, those with handicaps or disabilities, with elderly, bedridden. These are especially violent crimes, and I think we need to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Next speaker is Supervisor Wingren. Please go ahead, Supervisor Wingren.
I apologize. I was just asking a question about why do we send any resolutions on? I think we do not. And yet we come along at every meeting with these, many of them just feel-good resolutions. I think it's just a waste of time, so that's just an observation.
Thank you, Supervisor Wingren. Next speaker is the County Board Supervisor under Winnebago County IPAD. That's Supervisor Lautenschlager, I believe. Please go ahead, Supervisor Lautenschlager. And if you could go ahead and...
There we go. I got it. I'm sorry. I'll change the name. I just realized it now. But yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree with Supervisor Egan and Supervisor Towers that, yeah, I mean, that we should definitely support our other counties on some of these things. And right now, this might not affect Winnebago County, but let's say for some reason an organization opens up a thing like the Father Carr's Place to Be is. That's considered a youth center. If we don't have that in there, they could move, I mean, it could be on Father Carr's grounds and still have a section 980 living right there or whatever. So I said, it might not affect us right now, but it could affect us down the road because we need that definition of a youth center in there, you know, and that's what Brown County is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Lautenschlager. Seeing no other call-ins, we're going to go to the vote on the motion, but I just want to clarify for everyone what we're actually voting on. So the motion was to postpone indefinitely, which means if you want to postpone indefinitely, which basically kills the resolution, and we do not debate it any further or vote on it any further tonight, then you would want to vote aye to postpone indefinitely. If you want to continue to consider the resolution tonight, then you would vote nay to postpone indefinitely. Okay? It requires a majority of those present to pass to postpone indefinitely. If that passes, we're done debating it. We move on to the next resolution tonight. If it doesn't pass, we continue debating the actual original resolution. Okay? All right, so we're going to do this by a voice vote first. If there's any clarity, we're going to go to a roll call. Okay? So if you want to postpone indefinitely, say aye. Aye. If you do not want to postpone indefinitely, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. That motion does not pass, so it is not postponed indefinitely. So we are back on the original motion, and that's in support of the legislative change. So any debate further is on that. Is there any discussion on that further? Seeing none, we're going to go to a vote. Now, I do want to clarify for everyone, because we're going to attempt to do a voice vote. However, if there's not clarity, we're going to go to a roll call. And here's why. It does require a 3/4 vote. Okay? So if I hear a half a dozen or even less nay votes, it means we're going to go to a roll call vote, because I absolutely want to get the correct vote for everyone. Okay? So now we are back on the main motion. When I call the roll for aye votes, if you are in support of these legislative changes, you're going to say aye. If you're not in support of them, you're going to say nay. Okay? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
There's one abstention and one nay vote, so that motion carries. Very good. So we'll move on to the next item, and that's resolution number 242-12-2021, authorizing Winnebago County to enter into the settlement agreements with McKesson Corporation, Cardinal Health Incorporated, AmerisourceBergen Incorporation, Johnson & Johnson, Janssen Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, Ortho McNeil Janssen Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, and Janssen Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, and agree to the terms of the MOU allocating settlement proceeds and authorize entry into the MOU with the Attorney General. I'll first ask for a motion and a second, then we'll go to Corporation Counsel. So I'll ask Supervisor Rasmussen for a motion. And if we could open up the mic for Supervisor Rasmussen.
There it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution number 242-12-2021.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 242-12-2021. And so before we go into debate, I want to give the Corporation and Council an opportunity to give an update and provide some additional information. I know you all received some, and we had a presentation at the last one, but I certainly think it's important that you have as much of the updated information as possible, and then we'll enter debate. So please go ahead, Corporation Counsel.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos. I wanted to give you basically a bird's eye view as to what this resolution involved. I know you all received significant materials, so what I'm trying to do tonight is to highlight what I think the board would probably need to see and answer any questions. As you all know, nationwide settlements have been proposed to resolve all opioid litigation brought by states and local political subdivisions against the three largest pharmaceutical distributors, McKesson, Cardinal Health, and Amerisource, along with the manufacturer, the parent company, Johnson & Johnson. The basic terms, as are in the materials you've been provided, are that the distributors will pay a maximum of $21 billion over 18 years. J&J, Johnson & Johnson, will pay a maximum of $5 billion over no more than 9 years, and of the potential, and let me underline potential, $26 billion, approximately $22.8 billion will be payable to state and local political subdivisions. Now, of the funds that go directly to the participating states and subdivisions, 85% must be used for abatement of the opioid epidemic. In the Janssen & Janssen settlement agreement, if you look to Exhibit E, and that was online because that was over 400 pages, and we do like trees. We didn't want to totally deforest, forests. It talks about approved lists of opioid remediation uses, and they're varied. They talk about naloxone or other FDA-approved drugs to reverse opioid overdoses. It talks about medication-assisted treatment, and that revolves around providing education to schools. It talks about providing training to healthcare providers. It talks about providing residential and inpatient treatment. Again, these are approved uses, types of uses. It talks about expanding screening and referrals to non-Medicaid eligible uninsured pregnant women. It talks about expanding treatment for neonatal abstinence syndrome, an expansion of a warm handoff program, and it goes on and on. But what we would really, I would think what you folks would want to know is the actual numbers that may come in to Wisconsin. It is estimated that Wisconsin will receive approximately $402 million. And of the $402 million, local governments would receive approximately $281 million, and that's based on a 70-30 split, 70% going to various counties, 30% going to the state. And then in terms of Winnebago County could possibly receive $6,126,478. In addition, so we have that possible amount of money. But then the question, because as some of you may know, I went to Personnel and Finance, and I went to Judiciary and Public Safety so that the committees would understand what was going on here. Questions were asked about, well, if in fact this money comes in, how does it come into Wisconsin? Who is managing it? There is an escrow agent based on various agreements that divides the monies between the counties and the states across the country. Money comes into Wisconsin, a check will be cut to Winnebago County. That money has to go into a separate account marked Opioid Abatement Account. And then the county decides how to spend it, as long as, again, it's approved for opioid abatement measures. Again, it has to be the approved opioid abatement measures. What's important to note is that if one county says no, and I should say 71 counties in Wisconsin joined this litigation. The only county that didn't join was Polk. But if one county says no, we can lose 5% of the money coming into Wisconsin. So that's why there has to be basically a critical mass. Since we're talking about money, there is also the issue of attorney's fees. Some of you may recall that about 4 years ago, this board signed an engagement letter with a number of firms, which basically said that they would approve a 25% share for attorney's fees. And that was in a resolution, as I said, that was approved back in December of 2017 by the board. That amount would include fees and disbursements. So not only the attorney's fees, but if there were fees to take depositions, to hire expert witnesses, that would all be included. I would also point out that the aggregate amount, if you again look through all of the documents, references a 20% attorney's fees. I've spoken with the attorneys involved. Actually, I believe Andy Phillips is on the line if any of you have questions. And the bottom line is that there was a national fund created by the defendants. And there was about $2 to $3 billion set aside in that fund. And the plaintiff's lawyers have every right to apply for that fund. But if they apply for that fund, then they waive certain fee contracts. So based on representations from our counsel, the aggregate amount that Winnebago would face in terms of attorney's fees would be 20%. But we, again, could get clarification from Attorney Phillips. So we have that. Now, I also wanted to point out that when you look at the various percentages, and that is referenced in one of the documents, you'll see the breakout as to the various counties that signed the litigation. Why are certain counties getting an amount more than others? It was based on three criteria. One was population. One was the impact, the national opioid impact on the county. And the third criteria was the distribution of opioids in the county per se. So the other thing, again, we're talking about money is, yes, it's potentially a lot of money, but you all have to know that it is over time. The attorneys are confident that the settlement will come to fruition, but again, nothing is guaranteed. This would be taking the first step down a long path. I look at it as found money. If you get a dime, you're ahead. And we are at no risk by doing this. It's an opportunity to collect. Aside from the money piece, and this I think is equally important, this potential settlement addresses injunctive relief. And that means that the distributors and Johnson & Johnson will agree, number one, to create a clearinghouse through which the distributors will be required to account not only for their own shipments, but the shipments of other distributors. Johnson & Johnson will not market or sell any opioid products in the next 10 years and has agreed to cease lobbying concerning prescription opioids for 10 years. And Johnson & Johnson has also agreed to make the clinical trial data that they have gathered for its discontinued opioids available for medical research. As I alluded to earlier, how will the settlement be approved? Counties and cities need to sign participation agreements and agree to release their claims in order to receive the settlement proceeds. In the packets, you will see that there should be the proposed resolution. Behind the proposed resolution is my agenda item report, which basically tried to give you a very broad summary of what was included in the packets. The next item is a settlement participation form, and that is for the distributors. There is a form behind that also called a settlement participation form, but that's for Johnson & Johnson. That's the manufacturer. So the first settlement participation form is for the distributors. The second settlement participation form is for Johnson & Johnson, the manufacturer. The next material in your packet is the Wisconsin State Local Governmental Memorandum of Understanding. And that basically references the 30-70 split, where essentially 30% of funds coming into the state would go to the, or into Wisconsin would go to the state, 70% would go to the counties. The next packet, the next item, is the Wisconsin Local Government Memorandum of Understanding. And if you go to the very back of that document, you will see a breakout which talks, and it's under Exhibit A, and it talks about the allocation of proceeds among local governments. And that's where you will see the estimated amount to the various litigating counties. And again, as I indicated, those percentages were based on population, national opioid impact, and the distribution of opioids in various counties. Now, so you have all of that, and the other important piece of this is that if the board decides to go forward with this, settlements require that a critical mass of both state and local governments sign on by January 2nd. That's actually why we moved this meeting up, because with the holidays, there was a concern that people might be away, and this would give the board enough time to basically look at the situation. Why should Winnebago County sign on to this? It's obviously up to the board, but I can tell you, number one, that this proposal is a product of years of litigation. As I indicated, this board signed the engagement letter 4 years ago. Money is critical to the epidemic now. As you've heard, there are opioid deaths throughout the county. Third, litigation has a real risk. I don't know if you've heard, but the Oklahoma Supreme Court tossed out a $465 million opioid ruling against Johnson & Johnson last month. The other piece that is real is that there is a potential of bankruptcy. Further insolvencies can be a real possibility. If the board decides not to participate in this agreement, the federal court managing all of these cases has basically imposed a 90-day deadline for non-participating counties to litigate a case that has basically been handled by legions of lawyers over the last 4 years. Now, my office is very efficient. We have 3 attorneys. One of them is here in addition to myself today. but there is no way we could handle this litigation in 90 days. So again, the deadline for participating, it needs to be decided now because the deadline is January 2nd. You might also wonder, when will the money come in, if there is money? The distributors made an initial deposit of funds into escrow in September of 2021. And my understanding is there are additional deposits to be made in the spring of 2022. I have been told that funds could begin to flow into the state and local governments as early as April 2022. So the other item in your packet was the last item, which was the case management order from Judge Polster, who basically said for those people who are non-participating, or those counties and states that are non-participating, you need to be ready to try this case in 90 days. So that's the packet of information. And again, I know there's a lot to digest, but those are the highlights. And as I indicated, Andy Phillips, who was here last month, was graciously agreeing to be available via Zoom if any of you had other questions.
Thank you, Corporation Counsel. So there was a motion and a second, so we're going to open it up for questions. Please go ahead, Supervisor Eisen.
122021.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. So we do have a motion and a second. I'll also call on Supervisor Defferting. Please go ahead, Supervisor Defferting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mary Ann, for that. You answered probably about 10 of my questions that I was going to ask you. My one concern, though, is that it seems to be that these funds are, I mean, it's good that these funds are going to an opioid abatement fund, and we named it the Opioid Abatement Fund. And you did state that these funds will specifically go to opioid abatement. Do we have, like, is there anything like in the state statutes or in the settlement, in anything that legally that states so? I guess the reason why I'm saying this is I'm just concerned that we put this into an opioid abatement fund and then it gets moved over to something else that's not opioid related.
No, it is required in order to accept these funds. It has to go into an opioid abatement fund. And again, under Exhibit E of the Janssen Settlement Agreement, it specifically states the types of services that would qualify for opioid abatement. So that is something that there is no room. I mean, it's very structured.
Okay, that's good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Defferting. And that was part of our goal, was hopefully answering some of those questions in advance by allowing her to present some. So appreciate that. Next, we'll call on Supervisor Fari. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me reflect a little bit on Supervisor Deffering's comment last month. And I did and do support what he was saying. We are going and taking a litigation issue that will affect perhaps hundreds of thousands of people in this country who have chronic pain issues. This has become a legal issue, and I suggested 4 years ago, and I did not support moving forward with this, that it is more of a medical issue. So I think my basis for voting no is quite sound. I hope we know and realize what the consequences of this litigation nationwide will have on those patients who are in chronic pain. So I will not support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Fari. We'll open it up. Any other discussion? I don't see any other call-ins. Okay, seeing none, so just so we're all on the same page, this is resolution number 242, 2021. So there was a motion and a second. So when I call, we'll attempt to do a voice vote. If there's any clarification, we'll go to a roll call. So if you are in favor of the settlement agreement and moving forward related to the MOUs, you are going to say aye. If you're opposed, you're going to say nay. Okay? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay?
That motion carries. And just so we're all on the same page, that's because it required a simple majority of those members present for passage, just so everyone was aware. So that motion carries. So we'll move to the next resolution. That's resolution number 243-12-2021. Commendation for Kathy Calander. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen. And if we could open up the mic for Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Resolution 243-12-2021.
Second.
So there was a motion and a second to approve resolution number 243-12-2021. Please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen. And if we could open up the mic again for Supervisor Rasmussen.
Kathy Glander started her journey with Winnebago County in May of 1994 as a unit aide in the Human Services Department, later becoming support specialist supervisor. Kathy was with Human Services for 12 years before moving to a newly created position at Parkview, Administrative Coordinator. Kathy has been an incredible asset to the team at Parkview for many years. She has supported the residents, families, and staff in too many ways to count. Kathy has gone above and beyond during her service with the county and Parkview. After 27 and a half years with the county, Kathy retired December 3rd, 2021. Kathy looks forward to every day being Saturday. She plans to follow a passion by starting to write children's books. She will spend more time with family, especially her granddaughters, and hopes to stay connected at Parkview by volunteering. We all wish Kathy the best in her retirement.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. So there was a motion and a second to approve resolution number 243-12-2021. Any discussion? So there was a motion and a second. The only thing I'll say is for those of you who are in Parkview, Kathy Glander was so wonderful to work with. I think everyone who's interacted with her would know that. And for those of you who have also worked with her, I think you can truly see how she would be very good at writing children's books, no doubt. So that very much suits her. So certainly congratulations to Kathy Glander. But there was a motion and a second. Any other discussion? We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item. That's resolution number 244-12-2021. Commendation for Tom Geske. For that, I'll once again call on Supervisor Rasmussen. And if we can go ahead and keep the mic open for Supervisor Rasmussen, as he pretty much will be introducing the next 5 or 6 resolutions. Please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen.
Move for Resolution 244-12-2021.
Motion and a second to approve resolution number 244-12-2021. Please proceed, Supervisor Rasmussen.
Tom Geske, Financial Services Manager, finished his employment with Parkview Health Center on Wednesday, December 1st, on his exact 40-year anniversary with Winnebago County. Things were quite different when Tom was hired in 1981. Parkview consisted of Pleasant Acres, a nursing home setting, and the Rehab Pavilion, a residence for disabled individuals. Tom worked through transitioning to today's building and shares stories of bringing residents and supplies through the underground tunnel. Tom has now been able to add a pandemic to his extensive list he experienced during his tenure. Tom was known as the jack of all trades at Parkview, and his duties expanded well beyond those of a typical financial services manager, helping with anything and everything needed. Tom enjoyed serving the residents, families, and staff at Parkview. Although he will leave a tremendous void, we wish him a wonderful adventure in his life ahead.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. So there was a motion and a second to approve resolution number 244-12-2021. I'll open it up for any discussion. The only thing I'll say is Parkview lost 2 wonderful employees pretty much all at the same time when Tom Geske retired. So once again, all those folks who worked with him in Parkview know how diligent he was with the finances and managing the finances at Parkview. So he'll certainly be missed. He does have a very good replacement, but he'll certainly be missed. So with that, There was a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, that's the second from the bottom of the second page. It's resolution number 245-12-2021. Disallow claim of Peter J. Long. Once again, call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution number 245-12-2021.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 245-12-2021. We'll open it up for any discussion. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next item. That's the last one on the second page. It's resolution number 246-12-2021. Authorize a budget transfer of $40,000 from the Finance Department labor account to the contracted services account to provide for assistance, and I'm going to read something slightly different here, for assistance in recruiting the replacement for the finance director for the fiscal year 2022 budget. We'll explain that in just a minute. I'll ask for a motion to approve by Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you. I move for resolution 246-12-2021.
There was
Second.
a motion and a second to approve resolution number 246-12-2021. So there were a couple items that didn't come out on the agenda quite as they occurred during the Personnel and Finance Committee. And I just want to read off what those are, or would you prefer to do that, Supervisor Rasmussen?
I can explain this.
Please
if
go
you'd
ahead,
like me
Supervisor
to.
Rasmussen.
The resolution came to committee as it was written on the agenda, but that's not the way it was approved at committee. We had a long discussion about this, took input from the Finance Department, and the motion that was approved was the one that Chairman read, that it was for recruiting, getting assistance to recruit the replacement of the finance director. And also with that, we would change lines 16 and 17 to say the current finance department staff will meet the basic operational needs for the period of time required to replace these positions. So that's what was approved at committee. That's why I brought this forward in this fashion.
Very good. And so we wanted to put that out right. We want to make sure the board's okay with that. But that's what actually occurred at the committee meeting. So that's why we're presenting it as such. Is there anyone who's opposed for us going forward and debating it with that verbiage?
I'm not opposed to it whatsoever, but I'm just wondering if it should be some kind of amendment. Because the way you got it, like, he approved 246-12-2021, and then you read into it. I'm wondering if it should be some kind of amendment so there's no confusion later on. But this is what you got on this paper now. You approved that resolution.
And we brought it up in this manner intentionally to see how others felt, and we certainly can do it like that. Either is fine, as long as we're all on the same page and comfortable with how we go about doing it. That's the goal, is that we're all comfortable. So would you like to add it as an amendment, or would you like Vice Chair Egan to add it as an amendment?
I have no problem how you go about it,
Okay.
but this is what was approved at committee.
Very good.
That's all my concern is.
I understand what you're saying, and I go along, that's the way it should be written here. But if you go ahead and we make a motion, go ahead with resolution number 246-12-2021, and then somebody comes back and reads that, but they don't know what was read in, they just read this here, they're gonna say, well, this is what they did.
Right, I brought it forward as an amendment originally, but then with our discussion, we thought, right. But it's not an amendment that needs to be debated or voted on, because this is what happened at committee. The other one did not happen at committee.
Okay. Okay. So let's do it this way. Since the verbiage is what happened, however, the verbiage that's being presented tonight came from the Chair of Personnel and Finance, notifying us of this. If it's okay with you, it's a motion to amend it to that language from Supervisor Rasmussen. And are you okay with seconding that? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor, and just so we're all on the same page, that we would change the title to the verbiage, authorize a budget transfer of $40,000 from the Finance Department labor account to the contracted services account to provide for assistance in recruiting the replacement for the finance director for the fiscal year 2022 budget. And we would replace lines 16 and 17 after whereas to say the current finance department staff will meet the operational needs for the period of time required to replace these positions. That's what it would say in line 16 and 17 instead of the verbiage as you said. Certainly. Absolutely. So the amendment would be to change the title to the following. So you would take away all that you see on the top of your page, and it would be replaced by authorize a budget transfer of $40,000 from the Finance Department labor account to the contracted services account to provide for assistance in recruiting the replacement for the finance director for the fiscal year 2022 budget. So that's one. And then, as a part of the same amendment, in lines 16 and 17, everything after the whereas would be removed and replaced with the following verbiage. The current finance department staff will meet the basic operational needs for the period of time required to replace these positions. And that's what actually occurred at Personnel and Finance. So what we're trying to do is have the resolution that you all are debating tonight and potentially adopting reflect what actually occurred at the Personnel and Finance.
Might I ask, Mr. Chairman, I do have my light on.
Please, go right ahead, and if you can just go ahead and open up, if we can open up the mic for Supervisor Fari. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the amendment here and the concern for changing this, but let me get a little background here. How did this resolution, which is a public document, get sent to the board as it is? Was there simply a mistake, or did the Personnel Finance Department not correct and submit a different resolution? Tell me about that process.
Is there anyone from the Finance Director or the clerk, County Clerk's, Corporation Counsel, I believe, can answer the question. So we'll allow the Corporation Counsel first and see if that answers it.
I will tell you that the finance director was not involved in this legislation because she had advised my office that since she was obviously trying to deal with transitioning, she would not be involved in putting this together. However, there was an agenda item report that was prepared for the Personnel and Finance Committee, which was attached, or should have been attached, behind your resolution. And this resolution was based on the items referenced in the agenda item report that was prepared for Personnel and Finance.
And P&F amended that report,
Yes, apparently.
resulting in the amendment we have before us tonight.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
That is my understanding.
All right.
from Supervisor
I understand
Rasmussen.
completely, so thank you.
Thank you, Corporation Counsel, for the clarification, and thank you, Supervisor Fari, for the question. Okay? So any other questions about that? So we are going to vote technically on that additional amended language. Okay, I see a couple more questions regarding the amended language. I'll call on Supervisor Gabbard, followed by Supervisor Albrecht. Please go ahead, Supervisor Gabbard.
Maybe this isn't to do with that. I just needed some clarity on, I've never seen this done before on my terms on the board. So this is a confusing resolution to me that we're going to hire outside consultant to help us recruit for a new finance director. I mean, why don't we just post the position? I don't get why we're spending taxpayer dollars to recruit a finance director. We have an excellent finance director here that we didn't do that for. We published the opening, so I don't get what we're doing with this $40,000. I do understand that we're going to hire Clifton Gunderson to help us out. So saying that you're going to save some money, we're still spending money. So this seems to be going around in circles here to get to a point we don't need to get to. So I don't like this amendment at all. I'm not going to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. And our debate right now is just on the change in the language in those two areas, not specifically on the resolution. So Supervisor Albrecht, specifically on that amendment?
Tied to that, we have a HR director. Why can't he advertise it at no cost to the county in the county magazine? I mean, that's his job as a HR, kind of like what Mary Beth says. That's his job as a HR director to hire somebody.
And what we'll do is, after the amendment, we'll give the HR director an opportunity to answer your question for you, Supervisor Albrecht. Okay? So right now, we're just on that amended language, all right? Any other call-ins about the minute? I see a couple on Zoom. So first I'll call on Supervisor Wingren, followed by Supervisor Schellinger, specifically about the amended language. Please go ahead, Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My sound wasn't coming through way back when Mr. Egan was talking, so I don't quite understand. Is this one of those deals where you pass a resolution, then somehow someone puts the wrong title on it, which doesn't really affect the content of what you approve, what was done? But who reviews these resolutions ultimately before they're sent out to the board? I see a little twinkle in some people's eye out there. Am I not being told everything again, like we haven't been in a few cases since April?
So I'm not sure what your question was, Supervisor Wingren.
This doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right to me. It might be a lot to do about nothing, but the way people are going around and taking in this comment and that comment, even look at the faces on Zoom, you can see that. There's something that I don't understand. I don't want to do things that are wrong for the future precedent. We've always obeyed the law, tried to obey the law. Is this urgent that we do this now?
So to answer your first question, the language amendment is there because the published resolution, the way it stands in your packet, is not how the P&F
Well, why is it published that way is my question. Why is it? Yeah.
That I can't speak to. I think Corporation Counsel tried to give the best answer she could, is that it was the understanding based on the memo, but admittedly, there was some language that occurred and that was voted on at P&F that wasn't correctly transcribed to the resolution.
I don't want to sit here and blame somebody, but what can we do to make sure this never happens again? And, nobody's perfect, I understand that too, but this gives me room to pause here. Serious pause.
Thank you, Supervisor Lundgren. Next speaker is Supervisor Schellinger. Please go ahead, Supervisor Schellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so to me, it seems like in this amendment, we are reducing the scope of work that we are contracting for. I'm curious why there isn't a reduction in the cost that we are paying for what appears to be a pretty substantial reduction in services provided.
Supervisor Rasmussen, are you able to answer that question?
Well, it came in at 40,000, and that was the amount of money that was being saved in the labor budget through what was happening here, and that's just a transfer from that labor budget into the contracted services. So this doesn't add anything to the budget. It's just a transfer, and probably will not be that amount of money, but that's what was put in the original resolution to the committee. And to answer, I will also answer a little bit some of the previous questions about why would we contract out to this. This is a position that there's a lot of openings. Outagamie is looking for one. The City of Appleton is looking for one. This is going to be hard to do. And the firm that was brought up to help recruit, I'm very familiar with. We've used them for our township, and we felt that this was worth that extra money, since it's already in the budget, to make sure that we get the right person for this. I hope that answers a few of the questions.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. So I guess I'm still, I guess I'm a little confused though. Like, is there a contract that we are ready to enter into, or is this just putting money into the fund so that when we have a contract, we'll be prepared?
That is correct.
The latter. There isn't a contract currently.
No,
Okay. Thank you very much.
that we know of.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so just so we clarify what we're actually, oh, I apologize, there's someone on Zoom? Supervisor Finch, please go ahead, Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's just something about this that I feel funny about. I would much rather do a little more investigating and checking this out, because all of a sudden, the Finance Department needs this fiscal manager for 2022. They just found this out now, or what? I would rather see more work done on this than to just go through on something of this nature. In fact, I move to table this. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so just to clarify, when you're making a motion to table it, are you making a motion to postpone to a certain time? Are you making a motion to postpone it indefinitely? Or are you making a motion because you want to refer this back to the committee?
Postpone it indefinitely.
Okay, so the motion is to postpone indefinitely. Very good. So was there a second on the motion to postpone indefinitely?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so there was a motion and a second to postpone indefinitely. So that takes precedent at the moment. So all debate now is to postpone indefinitely. Okay, which means we would stop discussing this tonight and wouldn't consider it or anything related to it tonight. So that's the motion. It is debatable. So first, I'm going to call on Supervisor Rasmussen, followed by Supervisor Norton, and then Supervisor Shorsey after that. So please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen.
I would just like to clarify the motion that was just made. Was the intent to not hire a consultant to help, or was the intent to not hire a finance director? Because to table indefinitely not hiring a finance director doesn't seem real prudent to me.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. Next speaker is Supervisor Norton.
Could I get?
Oh, from Supervisor Finch. Please go ahead, Supervisor Finch.
What was the question?
So Supervisor Rasmussen asked you if your intent was to postpone indefinitely on this resolution or just hiring a finance director. Did I say it correctly, or please go ahead, Supervisor?
Well, the question here is authorizing the money to engage in a consultant to help. So was the motion to not hire the consultant, or was the motion to not hire a finance director?
Not to hire a consultant. We have personnel people, we've had this for many years. Let them earn their money and do the work that they're very educated for. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. Next speaker is Supervisor Norton, followed by Supervisor Shorsey. Please go ahead, Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very quick. My question would have been, could I amend it to their motion to give it a date, or say, send it back to Personal Finance Committee? Could I do that?
Yes, you could, because those are higher level motions, so you could make a motion to refer it back to finance. That would take precedent beyond postponing indefinitely.
I'll do that. I'll make a motion to refer this back to the
motion,
Personal Finance Committee.
To refer it to committee. So which one were you asking to do?
I'll make a motion to refer back to the Personnel Finance Committee.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to refer back to Finance Committee. So that is the motion on the table now. That is debatable as well. So that is what we are discussing, to refer back to the Finance Committee. So next I'll call on Supervisor Shorsey, followed by Supervisor Powers, followed by Supervisor Gappert, and then Supervisor Lenz, just so everyone's on the same page. So please go ahead, Supervisor Shorsey.
Well, I am going to, I guess, it's fine to refer it back to the Personnel and Finance Committee, but keep in mind this is quite time sensitive. And because we can do, and Mike can speak to this as well, Mike Collard, but we can do all of the internal postings and all that sort of thing right away. That doesn't require anything. But this is going to be, or I shouldn't say it is, we don't know, but it could be a situation where we need some help with recruitment. And as Vicki mentioned at our committee meeting, that's how she found the job in Amro, she was recruited for that by a company. So that was the purpose of this, is if we need, if HR needs help with the recruitment, which we expect to be highly competitive, that there would be resources available through this transfer. And again, the budget, there's not a budget impact other than spending money that if we didn't use a service would be there. However, keep in mind, we are down our top 2 leads in the finance department. So it is it's an urgent need, and they do a lot of work, and the existing staff will do the best they can to meet the basic needs, but it's definitely something that needs our full attention and needs our full support. So I guess I would be, keep in mind, if you postpone, especially if you postpone indefinitely, we'll be back because they probably are going to need some resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Shorsey. So next speaker is Supervisor Gabbert, Supervisor Powers, followed by Supervisor Gabbert. Please go ahead, Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we go along with Supervisor Norton's suggestion to go send it back to Personnel and Finance, or if we table this, or if in 21 days, we don't have a treasurer a finance director or an assistant finance director. In 21 days, they're gone. And that department is empty. What happens if we postpone this, or we send it back to Personnel and Finance, or we table it, or whatever all these various amendments are? What happens in 21 days? She's not sticking around. She has a job to go to.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. You are correct. We would not have one. So next speaker is Supervisor Gabbert, followed by Supervisor Lenz. Please go ahead, Supervisor Gabbert. If you could please open up the mic for Supervisor Gabbert.
We knew our deputy finance director was leaving because he's out at Parkview Health Center. I understand through the grapevine we posted that position. We had one applicant. And that applicant doesn't fit the box. We need to change the box. That's just my comment. We knew our finance director was leaving. I don't care if Outagamie County is looking for someone, Brown County. Again, we haven't posted the position, I understand. Why not? Vicki gave her notice a day after we had our last meeting in November. This is an important position. I agree with that. This is a mess, what got presented tonight. This should not have been published as an agenda item in error, and now we sit here tonight trying to correct it. I don't know that I want it postponed indefinitely, but I would like the process cleaned up. We need a new financial director. We're losing one of the best ones we ever had. Story ended there. we need to find someone. Why haven't we advertised for someone? And now we're getting into the holidays where perhaps we're not going to be around to get this done in time. I don't blame P&F for anything that was brought here tonight. I blame the system. It broke down. I don't like changing something that was published because it was published wrong. Shouldn't have happened. So I'm not going to point fingers, but I don't know if I want to postpone it indefinitely, but this needs to be cleaned up. So I don't know if we send it back to Personnel and Finance or if we table it till January and get it cleaned up. We may be without 2 positions. I think life will go on. We have someone in that department that's probably going to have to work very, very hard to get this done. This shouldn't have got to us tonight in the mess that it's in. And I know it's not spending more money, but I don't know where we all of a sudden decided we're going to use a recruiting firm. I see that we're headed toward a direction of probably going to get somebody in that human resource department that handles recruitments because we can't handle it internally because we're so busy. I'm upset with the system, so if that's what's going to be postponing indefinitely, I'll vote for that, and so be it. But bring it back around and clean up this mess. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. Next speaker is Supervisor Lenz, followed by Supervisor Nussbaum. And just so everyone's on the same page, we're debating the refer back to the Personnel and Finance Committee right now. So that's the motion on the floor only. So not postponing indefinitely, it's about referring back to the committee, just so everyone's on the same page. So please go ahead, Supervisor Lenz, specifically on referring back to Personnel and Finance.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos. Yeah, I guess I'm confused. If we do refer it back to the committee, it went to the committee, it came to the board mistakenly with the wrong verbiage. The committee members spoke up to correct that verbiage so it's consistent with what they voted on. If we send it back to the committee, I'm not sure what we're going to achieve, or if we're even sending them some sort of message on what they should do better. I suspect that we're probably going to see a very similar, if not the same, resolution come back through. Now, I don't have a crystal ball to confirm that, but I'm just confused on where the value add is by sending that back to committee and why we would want to take that risk of prolonging the fulfillment of this position even longer.
Thank you, Supervisor Lenz. Next speaker is Supervisor Nussbaum, followed by Supervisor Fari. Please go ahead, Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like the Personnel Director's opinion on this, and not only on this vote, but for the, but his whole opinion on this, so I know how to vote this time.
Very well. Please, Director Coward is in the back, so certainly I think he can answer your question and give his thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this on?
If we could please open up the mic in the back.
Hello? Testing? Am
Believe
I
it's
on?
on.
It's hard to tell from here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Should I, trying to think, do I need to direct my remarks just to the motion to?
No, please go ahead and answer his question. It's okay if you need to give more context to answer his question, because he did kind of ask a global question about
He did, thank you. First of all, I want to say the position of Finance Director has been posted. It's on at least 4 websites, advertised. The position is being posted, and we are proceeding internally, with recruitment of a new Finance Director. So I'm trying to earn my pay doing that. Thank you. It's also true that it's very hard to find a Finance Director in today's climate, in today's market. And so I'm trying to prepare for eventualities. One eventuality is it is almost 100% certain we will not have a new permanent Finance Director January 5th when we need someone. That almost can't happen. It's a position that has to be confirmed by the county board, among other issues. So there have to be some interim arrangements made, and I've been working very hard to try to figure out what can be done about that. It was asked by at least one supervisor, what will happen? The fact is we have to have a Finance Director. someone to manage investments, someone to transact business, someone with the authority to do those things. So it's my expectation that the county executive will appoint someone to be interim finance director in some fashion as of January 5th. I've been working, as I said, hard to try to find someone to fill that role. And that's proven very difficult. We did consult with the firm. We had someone lined up who I thought was going to be able to do it, and that's fallen through. I made numerous other contacts. I've talked to another consulting firm, to see if they know of anyone. So far, we've come up pretty dry. We're also certainly going to be looking at internal resources. There are several staff people in the finance department. There are several people with financial expertise and acumen in other departments. We can marshal all those resources, but we need someone, in the leadership role. And I'm not sure we have that right now. So that's my very great concern, is that we make some interim arrangements. So we brought this to the committee in a rush, frankly, because of the notice and the time period we had to work with. And so it was intended, at least it was my intent, to cover several items. For instance, it was mentioned we were going to use Clifton Larson, our accounting firm, to a greater extent. We don't have money to do that right now. In previous years, our year-end financial statements, our audited financial reports have been prepared internally with the assistant finance director really being the lead person in that role. He's not there. We have 2 full-time positions that will be vacant in January. I don't think it's realistic to think we can fill all of the duties performed by 2 full-time professional positions, the leaders of the department, with existing staff alone. Absolutely, we will have to call on existing staff to up their game, to work harder, to do some additional things, but I think it's not realistic to expect we can do that alone with existing staff. So we're going to be scrambling to marshal resources. So we're looking at bringing someone in on an interim basis to fill one or both of those positions. And so we're just trying to find how to do that. There is no contract in place other than a very small one. If there's a finder's fee for an interim person that we can handle with the existing budget, that's not a problem. But that money was intended to be there for contingencies. If we find someone on an interim basis that could come in and perhaps be paid, through the consulting firm or through an advisory firm that the person might be a part of, that would have to be in the contracted services category rather than in the labor category. We have plenty of money available in the labor category for 2022. We don't have it in contracted services. So it's really just to cover contingencies based on what we do find. But it's not just the person who's in the interim role specifically. It would also be to pay the accounting firm something extra for the additional work they will need to do on year-end financial statements, perhaps because we don't have the internal resources to do it. Another issue is regarding investments. The finance director has always been the person responsible for managing the investments, working with different depositories, different investment firms. I don't know that anyone else in the county government has that specific experience right now. There are a lot of very specific rules that have to do with investments by local governments. We might need to bring in someone else, or at least pay, an advisor something more than we have in the past in order to help us manage those things. I don't know what that deal might look like. We haven't progressed to that point yet. So I'm not saying that's 10,000 of the 40,000 or anything else. I just suggested the 40,000 is something we could easily cover through the labor accounts that would give us a pool of money to try to address some of those issues that frankly we're still working, kind of feeling our way through. So I do think there's a lot of time sensitivity here. We have money in labor, but we don't have very much money at all budgeted for contracted services in 2022 that isn't already spoken for, if you will. So it would be very helpful and feel much better about other options if we have some additional money available in contracted services. As we continue to explore options, we'll need to fill the gap here.
So you're in favor of this as amended?
Frankly, I'm in favor of it previous to being amended. I'm concerned that the amendment would restrict the money just to hiring of a full-time finance director, which may have been part of the motivation, but not the primary motivation.
I mean the committee amendment. As amended at the committee?
If you want my opinion, and I don't get a vote, I understand that, but if you're asking my opinion, I'm in favor
Of leaving it just the way it was written originally?
of leaving the way it was written in the board packet.
Anything further, Supervisor Nussbaum?
Thank you. Oh.
Thank you, Supervisor Nussbaum. Next speaker is Supervisor Fari, followed by Supervisor Hinz. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me thank the HR Director for that explicit explanation. It was a very good question and an appropriate answer, obviously. I agree with Mary Beth. This document is a mess. I would apologize to the public, our constituents, that we have a resolution before us that is certainly unclear. However, I'm also aware that the responsibilities of the finance director, there are certain criteria that have to be met at the close of the year. There are software issues and there are documents that need to be signed. So I am going to support the resolution as is suggested, the way it's presented to us. Specific to the motion to refer to committee, I call the question. Let's move on and defeat that and get back to the original resolution. Thank you.
Okay, so now that does take precedent as well. So we are now on the motion to call the question. Okay, so what that would mean is actually that if we called the question, we would go directly to the vote on the main motion as originally presented. Okay, just so everyone is clear. So we've certainly had a lesson in Robert's rules here and precedence of motions here tonight. So just so everyone's on the same page, there was a motion, there was a second, correct? I apologize. I thought there was a second. There was a motion and a second. So it's not debatable, okay? So that means we are going to go to a vote to call the question. And so we're going to do that by a roll call vote because that requires a 2/3, okay, majority. If it passes, if it passes, then we'll go directly to the vote as the resolution was presented this evening, okay? Just so everyone's on the same page with that, okay? So any
Supervisor
questions
Ramos,
in
I have a
terms of
question.
process?
Process question.
Please go ahead.
So it will go as originally proposed. So if we wanted to make the amendment, we would then have to, so we don't have a chance to put the amendment on if we call the question, if we go directly to vote right now, correct?
That is correct. So if the motion to call the previous question is upheld, then you wouldn't have the opportunity to amend because now we would then go directly to a vote on the original motion as presented. That is correct.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos.
Are there any other questions about process and this actual vote before we go to it? Okay, all right. So just to reiterate, if you want to call the question and go to a direct vote, please, Supervisor Rasmussen. If we could open up the mic for Supervisor Rasmussen.
When you said to go back to the original, what was presented, you're talking about the one that was published or the amendment?
The one that was published.
That did not come from the committee. So that means I have the authority to just pull that, which I will do then.
You do have the authority to pull it.
Okay, I'm pulling that resolution.
Okay. You can ask your question, Supervisor Eisen, but it is pulled since he is the chair.
Going back to committee, we have to take up the
I realize that Supervisor Norton, but he is the Chair of Personnel and Finance Committee, so he has the authority to pull a resolution. And since he's chosen to pull the resolution, that means we no longer debate it tonight. Okay? All right, so we'll move on then to the next resolution. So that resolution is on the top of the third page. And that is Resolution Number 247-12-2021, ratifying Memorandum of Understanding with the Deputies Association. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution number 247-12-21. I'd like to speak on that too, and if we can.
There was a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
So there's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 247-12-2021. Please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen.
I'd just like to say that, of course, the sheriff was here a month or two ago and presented the situation with this. And again, this had a long conversation at committee. I'll speak for myself, and I think all the committee members, that we fully support our sheriff's office and everybody they have there and what they do. My concern that I brought up at committee was three things, really. The first one was, where's the levy going to be to pay for this? That was my concern, because you can't have ongoing raises and not have levy to support it, because, as you know, we're under levy limits. That was answered from the sheriff, and that with reduction of overtime and such, and padding, or not padding, but some room in his budget, I'll put it that way, that he would be able to cover this. And I just wanted to bring that out for everybody to understand it, because I know we've talked about that before, and I've brought that up before. I would have supported a retention bonus or something like that, because this would come out of general fund. You got to be very careful about giving raises out of the general fund, because there's not the levy to cover it. So that was answered pretty well, so that's why I supported this. And the other one was about, the other concern I had was you're opening up a union contract, and that was answered by HR director, and that this is only covering the remaining of the 3-year contract, which is 2 years left in it. So that's not an ongoing, not necessarily an ongoing thing either. So I just wanted to clarify those two things of what we talked about in committee, what the concerns were, but of course we do support fully our sheriff's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. So there was a motion and a second to approve resolution number 247-12-2021. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I apologize. I'm going to honor that. If I didn't see it, I apologize. Please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen. We didn't finish the vote, so I'm going to honor that. Please go ahead.
All I wanted to say is I do support it, but in the future, I'd like to see, you give a $3 an hour raise, basically they're going to get $1.95 of that because the rest is going in taxes. I would like to see us put like a health savings account in place, and we have high deductibles. If you go to the hospital, there's like a $4,000 deductible. If you go to the hospital, it costs you like $249 to hit the deductible. I went on Medicare. I pay $5 now to go to the doctor. When I had the city's plan of Oshkosh, I paid basically $750 before they paid a penny. I think it would put us in a different category for hiring deputies or any county employees if we had a health savings account. And that money could be carried over then perhaps to pay for your health insurance when you retire. It'd be something that we'd be offering that other counties are not offering. Anybody can compete on wages, but out of this $3, you're only getting basically $1.95. 35% is going to go for state, federal, and Social Security. And in our county, another almost 7% for your Wisconsin retirement. They're not even going to walk away with $1.80. The rest is all going into special accounts. So in the future, I'd like to see us look into a health savings account, maybe for our employees, a benefit that they get 100% of, not $1.95 out of $3. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. Just to verify, is there any other discussion before we go to a vote? Okay. So we're going to do the vote again. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. We have two more resolutions this evening. Next one is Resolution Number 248-12, 2021, approving pay increases for certain Sheriff's Office employees and increasing pay differential for dispatcher in charge. I'll once again call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Resolution Number 248-1221. I'd like to speak on that too also.
There's a motion and a second. There's a motion and a second to approve Resolution Number 248-12, 2021. Please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen.
This one kind of covers my third concern that I had was compression of salaries and wages because of the levels of different levels of salary within the sheriff's office, and this does cover that. We had that problem for a number of years and finally got it taken care of, and it would happen again. So this does address that, and I'd just like to say that we've got some terrific people over there on staff that this covers, and so I support this also.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. The sheriff is in the back in case anyone has any questions. I'll call on Supervisor Defferting. Please go ahead, Supervisor Defferting.
I withdraw, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Thank you very much for being here, Sheriff Motz. I certainly knew you were prepared in the event that there were questions. Thank you. Very good. We have one more resolution this evening, and that's Resolution Number 249-12, 2021. Authorize the creation of a Winnebago County Scholarship Committee. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Powers. Please go ahead, Supervisor Powers. If we could open up the mic for Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution Number 249-12, 2021.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve Resolution Number 249-12, 2021. Is there anything further you'd like to say, Supervisor Powers?
Just that I think we have a lot of misinformation floating around, and we need to sort of clean this up and let supervisors know how we present these scholarships and how they're funded, because it was presented at the budget time with the county executive asking, and it was approved, to slash from 9 scholarships to 5, when it's not a budgetary thing that's privately funded, I believe, with donations that have been coming in. So we just need to look it over and present the board with some concrete information, correct information about the Winnebago County Scholarship.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Finch, I'll make sure I'll call on you in succession. So we have a few before you, but I'll absolutely make sure I do, so I have you in the queue, Supervisor Finch. Very good. So next will be Supervisor Norton, followed by Supervisor Snyder, and Supervisor Eisen, and then Supervisor Finch. So first is Supervisor Norton. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to amend this in line 21 after the word "a" with this language: a temporary scholarship committee for the purpose of establishing the criteria for one to receive a scholarship, as well as determining the Winnebago County Committee with jurisdiction over the scholarship program, period. The temporary committee will report back to the Winnebago County Board at the April 2022 County Board meeting, period. Thus, will ensure all Winnebago County residents who are seeking a post-secondary degree an opportunity to receive a scholarship. That's my amendment.
So we're going to need you to repeat that so we can write it down, because there was a lot in that amendment.
This is how, and I'll say my amendment, and this is how the now therefore resolved will be read. Now therefore be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that hereby authorize the creation of a temporary scholarship committee for the purpose of establishing the criteria for one to receive a scholarship, as well as determining the Winnebago County Committee with jurisdiction over the scholarship program. The temporary committee will report back to the Winnebago County Board at the April 2022 County Board meeting. Thus, this will ensure all Winnebago County residents who are seeking a post-secondary degree an opportunity to receive a scholarship.
Yeah, why don't you bring a copy up here?
Okay,
Supervisor Eisen, your point of order?
This resolution is out of order. This is creating a committee which is the job of the rules. If you want a committee, you have to have it in the rules. So I would move to refer this to judiciary so it can be considered under the rules. And you can work out the details. I've got a diatribe on what ought to be in it, but there's no sense in discussing it tonight in this frigid air of a expo center.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. So let me make some comments so everyone's on the same page. So Supervisor Norton has made a motion to amend, okay? Supervisor Eisen, through his point of order, has asked for this essentially to be referred, correct?
This should be referred to judiciary.
Okay.
Because it is a change of the rules.
So that motion does take precedent. He wasn't in the queue, but it's regard to his point of order. So I'm going to allow your motion to refer to committee, but there has to be a second, otherwise we go back to Supervisor Norton's.
Second?
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to refer this resolution to the Judiciary Committee, okay? So that is actually what we're debating now, the motion to refer to committee. So all debate going forward until we decide if we refer it to committee will be based on that. If we pass it and refer it to committee, then Judiciary will take it up. If we don't, then we're back on the debate and back to the potential amendment. So all debate going forward now is about the referral to the Judiciary. So next, Supervisor Schneider. It looks like Supervisor Schneider does not have any comments. Oh, please go ahead. You were next, Supervisor Schneider. If we could please open up the mic for Supervisor Schneider.
The only thing I was going to say is if we went forward with this, we have it on our agenda for extension. So Sarah Thompson, who handled these for years, could give the committee a little background going forward. So it's not really germane to the referral, but I wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Supervisor Schneider. Next is Supervisor Finch, followed by Supervisor Ellis. Now, Supervisor Finch, specifically on the referral to Judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off is, we did have a committee back from the beginning. We had a committee that started this, because I'm one of the ones that started it myself. However, management and the good old boys took it away from us and did it this way, so it took it away from the county board. But if anybody wants to go back, in the beginning, there was a 5-person committee, but it was taken away from us through upper management. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. Next speaker is Supervisor Ellis, followed by Supervisor Albrecht. Please go ahead, Supervisor Ellis.
I don't have anything at this particular time. If the resolution is going to stay, otherwise I do.
Thank you, Supervisor Ellis. Next speaker is Supervisor Albrecht. Please go ahead, Supervisor Albrecht.
I agree with Supervisor Eisen. This place is a refrigerator. He must have saved a lot of money on heat tonight. I wonder if they did it on purpose, as some of these other people have been saying. Anyways, I move to adjourn.
Is it okay if we finish the motion to refer?
Go ahead.
There's no one else? Okay, appreciate that. All right, so there's a motion and a second to refer to Judiciary and Public Safety. We're going to do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right. I appreciate that very much, Supervisor Albrecht, because technically adjournment does take precedent. So I appreciate you giving us that latitude, Supervisor Albrecht. So now I'll offer to Supervisor Albrecht a motion to adjourn to January 4th. There's a motion and a second to adjourn until January 4th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. All right, have a safe evening.
Merry Christmas.
And a happy new